The bridge of the ESS Magellan fell silent as the first transmission crackled through their quantum array. Captain Sarah Chen leaned forward in her chair, her fingers drumming against the armrest as the alien language filtered through their translation matrix. The message was brief, almost hurried, but its implications shattered humanity's perception of their place in the cosmos. Your species has begun its journey beyond your cradle. Turn back. The devourer stirs with each advancement. Return to your solar system. This is not a threat. This is survival. Before Chen could process the warning, a second transmission arrived from an entirely different sector of space. Then a third. By the time the 12th hour marked their standard Earth day, 7 distinct alien civilizations had reached out to humanity with increasingly desperate warnings. Commander David Okafor, the ship's science officer, worked tirelessly to compile the data streaming in. Captain, each message originates from a different species, yet they all reference this devourer. The translation variances are minimal. They're all describing the same thing. The final transmission carried more than just words. The Magellan's crew watched in stunned silence as visual data showed a thriving solar system, its planets wrapped in gleaming megastructures and quantum arrays. The footage, time-stamped 12 hours later, showed only darkness. Every artificial light, every energy signature, simply vanished. "Plot a course back to Earth," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of what they'd witnessed, "and get me a direct line to the Solar Council. They need to see this immediately." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, each day bringing new warnings and coordinates marking safe zones, regions of space where humanity could supposedly travel without drawing attention. The Magellan's crew spent countless hours analyzing the data, trying to understand what made these areas different from the rest of space. The Solar Council convened an emergency session upon their return. Representatives from every major spacefaring nation gathered in Geneva, their faces grim as they watched the footage of the vanished civilization. Admiral Helena Rossi, head of the Earth Space Force, stood before them with Captain Chen's report in hand. "The messages are clear," Rossi began, "but they leave us with more questions than answers. Why warn us now? What triggered these civilizations to break their silence? And most importantly, what exactly is this devourer they speak of?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading xenolinguist, presented her analysis of the transmissions. The fascinating aspect isn't just the warning itself, but the underlying tone. These species aren't threatening us. They're genuinely terrified for us. The linguistic markers suggest a shared trauma, something they've all witnessed firsthand. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued for an immediate halt to all deep space missions, while others pushed for accelerated military development. Through it all, Captain Chen noticed a pattern in the warning coordinates. They formed a rough sphere around Earth's solar system, approximately 40 light-years in radius. "Look at these safe zones," Chen pointed out to the council. "They're not random. They're purposeful. Whatever this devourer is, it has rules, patterns, maybe even limitations." The council's final decision was a compromise. Earth would maintain its current space presence, but halt any expansion beyond the designated safe zones. Research vessels like the Magellan would be reassigned to study the boundaries of these areas, trying to understand what made them different. As Chen left the council chamber, she received one final transmission on her personal communicator. Unlike the others, this one was text-only, written in perfect English. "Your ships are safe for now. You don't yet shine brightly enough to attract its attention. But be careful how you grow, humans. Some lights, once lit, cannot be dimmed." She forwarded the message to Earth security, but kept a copy for herself. Something about its tone felt different from the others. Less warning, more guidance. As she looked up at the night sky from the Geneva spaceport, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just become part of something much larger and more dangerous than they'd ever imagined. The stars no longer seemed like beacons of exploration and hope. They were now waypoints in a cosmic minefield. And somewhere out there, Something was watching them take their first steps into the void. The ESS Hawking drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt's outer reaches, its sensors mapping the distribution of trans-Neptunian objects. Lieutenant Emma Walsh stared at her monitoring station, fighting back a yawn as another ice fragment registered on her screen. 3 months of following the safe zone protocols had turned their pioneering scientific mission into a glorified astronomical survey. The anomaly appeared without warning. First, as a slight distortion in the starfield, then as a writhing mass of what seemed to be dark matter, bending both light and space around it. Walsh's instruments went haywire, struggling to quantify what they were seeing. "Captain Morrison to the bridge." Walsh called over the intercom, her voice trembling slightly. "We have a situation." Captain James Morrison arrived just as the entity fully manifested. Through the observation windows, they watched as a massive shape emerged from what appeared to be a fold in spacetime itself. It moved with a fluid grace that defied its enormous size, its surface rippling like oil on water, but darker than the void between stars. "All stop," Morrison ordered, though the Hawking had already drifted to a relative halt. "Status report." "Sir, we're picking up a massive gravitational distortion," Walsh reported. "But it's controlled somehow. Localized. By all rights, we should be being torn apart, but the effect seems to stop exactly at the entity's boundaries." Before Morrison could respond, a flash of light caught their attention. An alien vessel, easily 20 times the size of the Hawking, had emerged from fold space nearby. Its hull gleamed with quantum energy signatures, its design so advanced it seemed almost organic. The crew watched in horror as the dark entity suddenly changed direction, moving with terrible purpose toward the alien ship. The massive vessel attempted to flee, its quantum drives flaring brilliantly, but that only seemed to attract the entity more. "Sir," Walsh whispered, "I think we're seeing the Devourer." The alien ship launched what appeared to be weapons, beams of concentrated energy and quantum torpedoes, but they dissipated harmlessly against the entity's surface. Within moments, the Devourer had enveloped the vessel completely. When it moved on, nothing remained of the ship except a fading energy signature. Morrison expected the Devourer to turn on them next, but something strange happened instead. Nothing. The entity seemed to look right through them, treating the Hawking as if it were no more significant than a passing asteroid. "All sensors, full record," Morrison ordered, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "Let's see what we can learn while we have the chance." For the next 6 hours, the Hawking followed the Devourer at a safe distance, observing as it consumed 2 more advanced alien structures, some kind of quantum relay stations, while consistently ignoring their vessel. Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's chief scientist and sister of the Magellan's captain, compiled the data with growing excitement. "It's not that we're too small," she explained to Morrison. "Look at these readings. The Devourer passed right by several asteroids larger than us. It's something about our ship specifically that it doesn't register as prey." "Our technology," Morrison suggested, remembering the warnings about advancement. "Possibly," Chen nodded. "Those alien ships were practically bleeding quantum energy. Compared to them, our nuclear engines and chemical thrusters must seem primitive. We might be accidentally camouflage." Morrison made a decision that would change humanity's role in galactic affairs forever. "Plot a parallel course to the Devourer. We'll maintain this distance and observe. Send all our data back to Earth on a tight beam transmission." "Sir," Walsh interjected, "we'll be going beyond the safe zone boundary." "True," Morrison smiled grimly, "but it seems we found our own kind of safety. The deadliest predator in known space thinks we're too primitive to eat. I'd say that's the best protection we could ask for." As the Hawking fell into formation with the Devourer, its crew couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity's greatest advantage among the stars wasn't their advancement, it was their technological backwardness. Sometimes, it seemed, being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The Rotterdam's cargo bay had been transformed into a makeshift laboratory. its industrial steel walls now covered with holographic displays and analysis equipment from a dozen different worlds. The ship's massive nuclear engines thrummed steadily through the hull, a sound that made their alien guests noticeably uncomfortable. Dr. Elena Santos watched as Sertal, a crystalline being from the Carina arm, delicately manipulated a quantum sensor with their crystalline appendages. The alien scientists kept glancing at the engine readouts with what Elena had learned to recognize as barely concealed disdain. "Your vessels are remarkably resilient," Sertal commented, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as diplomatic discomfort, though the radiation shielding seems excessive. "That's because we never quite cracked quantum shielding," Elena replied, noting how several other alien scientists paused their work to listen. "We just kept improving our radiation barriers until they worked." The ship's captain, Marcus Wong, entered the laboratory, followed by a hovering orb that represented the consciousness of Dr. Zik, their leading expert on the Devourer. "We've detected another signature," Wong announced. 3 quantum relay stations in the Orion Spur. The Devourer's on an intercept course. The alien scientists immediately rushed to their stations, their previous skepticism forgotten in the excitement of potential data collection. Elena noticed how they unconsciously grouped themselves closer to the human crew members, a behavior she'd observed repeatedly over the past week. "Fascinating." Dr. Zik's orb pulsed with purple light. "Your species makes us uncomfortable with your inefficient technology, yet we instinctively seek your protection when the Devourer approaches. The psychological implications are..." The orb's monologue was interrupted by a sudden shift in the ship's momentum as Wong ordered an intercept course. Through the laboratory's viewports, they watched as the Devourer emerged from fold space, its dark mass instantly drawn to the gleaming quantum relay stations. "Recording all frequencies," Sertal announced, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "The energy absorption patterns are unlike anything in our records. It's not just consuming the technology, it's editing it out of space-time itself." Elena focused on her own readings, particularly the radiation signatures. Notice how it ignores all forms of nuclear radiation. It passed right through a stellar ejection event to reach those stations, almost like it was programmed to ignore certain types of energy signatures. Dr. Zik finished, their orb dimming thoughtfully, "just as it ignores your ships." The destruction of the relay stations was methodical, almost surgical. Within minutes, nothing remained except scattered debris that showed no signs of their previous quantum enhancement. The Devourer paused briefly, its mass rippling in what Elena had begun to interpret as a search pattern, before vanishing back into fold space. "Another successful observation," Wong noted dryly. "That makes 15 ignored passes near the Rotterdam. I'd say our camouflage theory is holding up." Later, during the ship's night cycle, Elena found Sertal in the observation dome, their crystalline form refracting the starlight into complex patterns on the deck. "Something's bothering you," she said, having learned to read the aliens' light patterns over their weeks together. "We thought we were helping you," Sertal admitted. "When we sent those warnings, we thought we were saving a primitive species from destruction. But now," their form shifted, creating a cascade of rainbow refractions. "Now I wonder if we're the ones who need saving." Elena sat beside the alien scientist, both of them watching as the Rotterdam's nuclear engines cast their steady, primitive glow into space. "Maybe that's why this task force works so well," she suggested. "You have the advanced sensors we need to study the Devourer, and we have the ships that can carry those sensors safely." "A symbiosis," Sertal agreed, their lights brightening. "Though I never imagined I'd find myself grateful for nuclear propulsion and chemical rockets." As if to emphasize their discussion, the Rotterdam's engines pulsed steadily, their radiation signature masked and contained by layers of carefully engineered shielding, a testament to centuries of human persistence in refining what other species had abandoned as primitive technology. In the end, Elena reflected, perhaps true advancement wasn't about finding the quickest path forward, but the most sustainable one. The Rotterdam's main conference room buzzed with activity as holographic displays flickered with data from thousands of Devourer attacks. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the assembled alien scientists, her hand steady as she manipulated the three-dimensional star map floating in the center of the room. The pattern isn't just in where the Devourer attacks, she explained, highlighting clusters of incidents across the galaxy. It's in when it attacks. Look at the technological development timelines of each civilization. Dr. Zick's consciousness orb pulsed with interest as it analyzed the data. Every targeted civilization developed zero-point energy manipulation within their first 10,000 years of space travel. But that's the natural progression of technological development. It's the only viable path to efficient interstellar travel. Is it? Elena pulled up Earth's technological development timeline alongside the others. The contrast was striking. Where other species' advancement showed elegant leaps in quantum understanding, humanity's progress appeared as a chaotic mess of incremental improvements in multiple directions. Zertal moved closer to the display, their crystalline form refracting the holographic light. This can't be right. You achieved stable fusion power before developing basic quantum communication. That's backwards. We never found the quantum shortcuts. Captain Wong interjected from his position at the back of the room. So we kept refining what we had. Our fusion reactors are 40% efficient now, not through any quantum manipulation, but through pure mechanical engineering. The alien scientists exchanged glances, their various forms of communication. Light patterns, pheromones, electromagnetic pulses, all conveying the same mixture of disbelief and dawning understanding. A junior xenorchaeologist, Dr. Maya Patel, stepped forward. She'd been quietly analyzing ancient records of the Devourer's earliest appearances. What if it's not about advancement at all? She suggested. What if it's about stability? The room fell silent as she pulled up her findings. Every civilization the Devourer targeted had achieved incredible technological feats, but they all did it by exploiting quantum mechanics in increasingly unstable ways. They found the shortcuts, but those shortcuts came with risks. Elena quickly overlaid the data with known spacetime anomalies. The correlation was undeniable. Regions where the Devourer had been most active showed subtle signs of dimensional instability. Our development path looks chaotic because we tried everything. Elena continued, excitement building in her voice. When quantum mechanics proved too difficult to master quickly, we didn't push harder. We found alternatives. We improved chemical rockets until they could reach 10% of light speed. We refined nuclear power until it was nearly as efficient as quantum taps. We took the slow path, but it was stable, Dr. Jick finished, their orb glowing with revelation. Your technology doesn't risk cascade failures in spacetime. You never found the shortcuts because you never stopped looking for alternatives. Captain Wong pulled up the Rotterdam's engineering schematics. Our ships aren't slow because we're primitive. They're slow because we prioritize reliability and safety over speed. We didn't know about the Devourer, but we built our technology as if we were trying to avoid its attention. The implications hung heavy in the conference room. Humanity's supposedly backward technological development wasn't a sign of inferiority. It was an accidental stroke of evolutionary brilliance. Zertal moved to the center of the room, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. We need to reconsider everything. Our quantum drives, our energy taps, our computational networks. They're all based on principles that could be contributing to universal instability. And that's what the Devourer hunts, Maya added quietly. It's not hunting advancement, it's hunting risk. Humanity survived because we never took the dangerous shortcuts. We never shone brightly enough to catch its attention. As the alien scientists broke into intense discussion groups, Elena caught Wong's eye across the room. They both understood what this meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. Their primitive technology wasn't just safe from the Devourer. It might be the key to helping other civilizations survive it. The pattern they'd discovered wasn't just about predator and prey. It was about the fundamental nature of technological progress itself, and humanity had stumbled onto a path that might just save the galaxy, not through brilliant advancement, but through careful, steady, sustainable growth. The Rotterdam's main conference room buzzed with activity as holographic displays flickered with data from thousands of Devourer attacks. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the assembled alien scientists, her hand steady as she manipulated the three-dimensional star map floating in the center of the room. The pattern isn't just in where the Devourer attacks, she explained, highlighting clusters of incidents across the galaxy. It's in when it attacks. Look at the technological development timelines of each civilization. Dr. Zick's consciousness orb pulsed with interest as it analyzed the data. Every targeted civilization developed zero-point energy manipulation within their first 10,000 years of space travel. But that's the natural progression of technological development. It's the only viable path to efficient interstellar travel. Is it? Elena pulled up Earth's technological development timeline alongside the others. The contrast was striking. Where other species' advancement showed elegant leaps in quantum understanding, humanity's progress appeared as a chaotic mess of incremental improvements in multiple directions. Zertal moved closer to the display, their crystalline form refracting the holographic light. This can't be right. You achieved stable fusion power before developing basic quantum communication. That's backwards. We never found the quantum shortcuts, Captain Wong interjected from his position at the back of the room. So we kept refining what we had. Our fusion reactors are 40% efficient now, not through any quantum manipulation, but through pure mechanical engineering. The alien scientists exchanged glances, their various forms of communication. Light patterns, pheromones, electromagnetic pulses, all conveying the same mixture of disbelief and dawning understanding. A junior xenorchaeologist, Dr. Maya Patel, stepped forward. She'd been quietly analyzing ancient records of the Devourer's earliest appearances. What if it's not about advancement at all? She suggested. What if it's about stability? The room fell silent as she pulled up her findings. Every civilization the Devourer targeted had achieved incredible technological feats, but they all did it by exploiting quantum mechanics in increasingly unstable ways. They found the shortcuts, but those shortcuts came with risks. Elena quickly overlaid the data with known space-time anomalies. The correlation was undeniable. Regions where the Devourer had been most active showed subtle signs of dimensional instability. Our development path looks chaotic because we tried everything. Elena continued, excitement building in her voice. When quantum mechanics proved too difficult to master quickly, we didn't push harder. We found alternatives. We improved chemical rockets until they could reach 10% of light speed. We refined nuclear power until it was nearly as efficient as quantum taps. We took the slow path, but it was stable, Dr. Zick finished, their orb glowing with revelation. Your technology doesn't risk cascade failures in space-time. You never found the shortcuts because you never stopped looking for alternatives. Captain Wong pulled up the Rotterdam's engineering schematics. Our ships aren't slow because we're primitive. They're slow because we prioritize reliability and safety over speed. We didn't know about the Devourer, but we built our technology as if we were trying to avoid its attention. The implications hung heavy in the conference room. Humanity's supposedly backward technological development wasn't a sign of inferiority. It was an accidental stroke of evolutionary brilliance. Zertal moved to the center of the room, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. We need to reconsider everything. Our quantum drives, our energy taps, our computational networks. They're all based on principles that could be contributing to universal instability. And that's what the Devourer hunts, Maya added quietly. It's not hunting advancement. It's hunting risk. Humanity survived because we never took the dangerous shortcuts. We never shone brightly enough to catch its attention. As the alien scientists broke into intense discussion groups, Alina caught Wang's eye across the room. They both understood what this meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. Their primitive technology wasn't just safe from the Devourer. It might be the key to helping other civilizations survive it. The pattern they'd discovered wasn't just about predator and prey. It was about the fundamental nature of technological progress itself, and humanity had stumbled onto a path that might just save the galaxy, not through brilliant advancement, but through careful, steady, sustainable growth. The Rotterdam's engines pulsed steadily as it approached the Carina research station. Through the main viewport, the crew could see the station's quantum core already beginning to destabilize, its brilliant energy signature acting like a beacon in space. "Time to devour arrival," Captain Wang demanded, his fingers drumming on his chair's armrest. 3 minutes, Lieutenant Chen reported from his station. "Station evacuation is at 60%. We won't have time to get everyone using their quantum shuttles. Then we do it the old-fashioned way," Wang decided. "Open all docking bays. We're taking everyone." The Rotterdam's massive cargo holds, originally designed for transporting heavy industrial equipment, had been retrofitted into emergency evacuation zones. As the ship maneuvered closer to the station, Alina watched the surveillance feeds as hundreds of alien researchers poured into the holds, their faces marked with equal parts terror and relief. "Devourer signature detected," Chen called out. 2 minutes to intercept. Dr. Zick's consciousness orb hovered near the tactical display. "The station's quantum shielding is failing. If those containment fields collapse—" "They won't," Wang cut in, "because we're getting everyone out first." "Alina, status on the evacuation." 85%, she reported, watching the numbers climb. "But the last quantum shuttle just failed. We're their only way out now." The Rotterdam shuddered as it extended its docking tubes, their mechanical seals engaging with the station's emergency ports. The ship's primitive technology meant they could maintain contact even as the station's more advanced systems began to fail. "Devourer in visual range," Chen announced, his voice steady despite the tension. Through the viewport, they watched the dark mass emerge from fold space, its form rippling with hungry purpose as it sensed the station's quantum signature. But just as before, it seemed to look right through the Rotterdam, its attention fixed solely on the more advanced technology. "Final groups coming through now," Alina reported. "Engineering confirms our radiation shielding is handling the station's decay products. 90 seconds to station collapse." Zick's orb pulsed with urgent light patterns. Wang leaned forward in his chair. "Time to show why slow and steady wins the race. All hands, secure for emergency departure." The Rotterdam's chemical thrusters fired in precise sequence, pushing the massive ship away from the doomed station. Their nuclear engines, operating at peak efficiency, powered up with reliable, steady force. No quantum fluctuations, no space-time distortions, just raw, controlled power. "Station containment failing," Chen reported. "The Devourer is beginning consumption." Through the aft cameras, they watched as the massive entity engulfed the research station. But the Rotterdam was already accelerating away, its hold packed with over 3,000 evacuees, who watched in awe as their advanced technology proved no match for the Devourer's hunger. Hours later, as the rescued scientists were being processed and settled into temporary quarters, Alina found Wang in the observation deck. 17 minutes, she said, looking at her tablet. "From first alert to full evacuation. That's a new record for us." Wang nodded, his eyes on the stars. "And how many requests have we received to study our ship designs?" 23 so far. Turns out watching your quantum drives fail while our nuclear engines keep purring changes some perspectives. She paused, checking another notification. "Make that 24. The Valaxian Science Council just submitted their request." "It won't be easy for them," Wang mused. "Our technology represents centuries of refinement. You can't just jump backward and expect the same results." "No," Alina agreed, "but they're starting to understand. I heard 2 Carina physicists discussing how to redesign their sensors using purely electromagnetic principles. They're not just copying our technology. They're learning to think like us. The ship's comm system chimed softly. Captain. Chen's voice came through. We're receiving new distress calls. 3 more research stations are reporting quantum core instabilities. Wang straightened, his decision already made. Plot course for the nearest station. Looks like the Rotterdam gets to show off human engineering at its finest again. As they moved to their stations, Alina reflected on how quickly things had changed. Just months ago, humans were seen as technological backwater dwellers. Now their ships were the most sought-after vessels in known space, their primitive technology representing something far more valuable than advancement: survival. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the assembled representatives of 12 spacefaring civilizations aboard the Rotterdam's converted cargo bay. Her holographic display showed thousands of data points collected over 6 months of studying the Devourer's behavior. "It's not a natural entity," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "The patterns are too precise, too specific. The Devourer was created, engineered to serve a purpose." The assembled aliens murmured among themselves. Dr. Zik's orb moved forward. "You have proof of this." Maya nodded, expanding a particular dataset. "Look at the energy absorption patterns during each consumption event. They're not random. The Devourer isn't just destroying advanced technology. It's systematically eliminating specific technological approaches that could destabilize spacetime." She pulled up a complex simulation showing the quantum field interactions of various civilizations' technologies. Every targeted technology shares one common trait. They all create microscopic tears in the fabric of spacetime. Most are too small to detect, but they're cumulative. Alina stepped forward, adding her own research to the display. "We found evidence in ancient records. Approximately 3 million years ago, a civilization called the Precursors achieved technology far beyond anything we've seen. Their quantum manipulation abilities were godlike by our standards. And they vanished." Exertal's crystalline form pulsed with recognition. Every spacefaring species has found traces of their civilization, but no evidence of what destroyed them. "Because they destroyed themselves," Maya continued, "or nearly did. Our theory is that they created the Devourer as a failsafe, a universal immune system designed to prevent other civilizations from making the same mistakes they did." The holographic display shifted to show a map of known space, with areas of subtle distortion highlighted. These regions show signs of ancient spacetime damage. The Precursors' technology nearly unraveled the fabric of the universe itself. The Devourer isn't just a hunter, it's a preservation system. Captain Wang joined them at the front of the chamber. "This explains why it ignores human technology. Our development path, while slower, doesn't create these quantum tears. We're not triggering its preservation protocols because we're not threatening universal stability. But all advanced civilizations naturally progress toward quantum manipulation," one alien scientist objected. "It's the only way to achieve efficient faster-than-light travel and energy production." "Is it?" Alina challenged. "Or is that just the easiest path?" Humanity proved there are alternatives. They're slower, yes, and require more effort to perfect, but they're sustainable. Safe. Maya brought up new data showing the Rotterdam's engine efficiency compared to quantum drives. "Our nuclear fusion drives can achieve 30% of the speed of quantum engines, with zero risk to spacetime stability. Our chemical rockets, refined over centuries, can match quantum thrusters for precision maneuvering. The Precursors didn't create the Devourer to stop advancement," Alina explained. "They created it to enforce sustainable development, to eliminate civilizations that choose dangerous shortcuts over stable progress." The chamber erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. Humanity's technological path wasn't an accident or a sign of backwardness. It was exactly the kind of development the Devourer was programmed to allow. Later, in her lab, Maya reviewed the meeting's recording with Alina. "They're scared," she observed, "not just of the Devourer now, but of their own technology." "They should be," Alina replied, studying the space-time distortion maps. Look at these readings. The combined effect of all quantum technology in the galaxy is creating exactly the kind of instability the precursors feared. If civilizations don't change course, then the Devourer's attacks will increase. Maya finished. It's not just hunting anymore. It's trying to prevent a cascade failure that could unravel the universe itself. Captain Wong's voice came over the intercom, interrupting their discussion. All senior staff to the bridge. We're picking up massive quantum surge signatures from the Carina sector. Looks like some civilizations aren't waiting to start their technological transition. As they hurried to their stations, Maya caught Elena's eye. You know what this means, right? Humanity isn't just going to help them survive the Devourer. We're going to help them rebuild their entire technological base from the ground up. Elena nodded, a grim smile on her face. And this time, they'll do it the right way. The slow way. The human way. 10 years after the Rotterdam's first encounter with the Devourer, Earth's orbital shipyards presented a remarkable sight. Vessels of every conceivable alien design lined up for retrofitting, their quantum cores being carefully replaced with human-designed fusion reactors and chemical propulsion systems. Captain Wong, now Admiral Wong, stood in the observation deck of Earth's primary space station, watching as the Rotterdam prepared for another escort mission. The ship that had once been considered primitive was now the flagship of humanity's diplomatic fleet. The latest statistics are in. Elena, now Earth's chief of xenotechnology integration, reported as she joined him at the window. 87% of known civilizations have begun transitioning to stable technology. The Devourer's attack frequency has dropped by 60%. And the holdouts? Wong asked, though he already knew the answer. Still claiming we're holding them back. That their quantum technology can be stabilized with enough research. She paused, checking her tablet. We lost another of their research stations yesterday. Below them, Earth's surface gleamed with the lights of a civilization that had chosen to grow differently. Instead of towering quantum spires and space-time manipulation devices, humanity had built efficient, sustainable cities powered by fusion and solar technology. The Valaxians completed their transition last week. Elena continued, her voice carrying a note of pride. Their new ships are actually faster than our designs. They took our basic principles and refined them even further. That's what we hoped for. Wong nodded. We're not trying to make everyone copy Earth. We're showing them there's another path. The station's comm system chimed. Dr. Maya Patel's hologram appeared before them, her image flickering slightly, a reminder that even Earth's communication technology prioritized reliability over instantaneous transmission. You need to see this, she said, sending through a data stream. We've decoded more of the precursor archives. The Devourer. It's not just a preservation system. It's a test. Elena pulled up the data on the observation deck's display. Ancient symbols and equations filled the screen, their meaning now clear thanks to years of collaborative research. The precursors didn't vanish. Maya explained, her hologram gesturing at the data. They evolved. But before they did, they wanted to ensure other species would be ready to join them. The Devourer isn't just protecting the universe, it's filtering species based on their approach to advancement. A test of wisdom over ambition, Wong mused. They wanted to see which civilizations would choose sustainable development over quick power. Outside the window, a new ship class emerged from Earth's atmosphere. A hybrid design combining human engineering principles with alien material science. Its engines pulsed with clean fusion power, its hull incorporating centuries of human radiation shielding expertise. We're receiving another distress call, Elena reported, checking a notification. The Carina Science Council is detecting quantum instabilities in their central archive. They're requesting immediate evacuation support. Wong straightened, years of experience guiding his decision. Signal the Rotterdam. One last mission for the old girl before she transfers to training duties, and notify the Valaxian fleet. Let's show them how their new ships perform in a real evacuation. As they watched the Rotterdam power up its engines, Maya's hologram flickered thoughtfully. You know, The precursors left one more message in their archives. They said that true advancement isn't measured by the power a civilization wields, but by the wisdom with which they pursue that power. Humanity's greatest achievement, Elena smiled, wasn't reaching the stars first. It was reaching them responsibly. Below them, Earth's shipyards continued their work, transforming vessels of quantum technology into sustainable ships that could safely traverse the galaxy. Each conversion represented not just a technological change, but a philosophical one, a recognition that sometimes the longest path was the wisest choice. The Rotterdam's engines flared to life, their steady pulse a reminder of humanity's unique journey among the stars. They had become the teachers, the protectors, the guides, showing other civilizations that advancement didn't have to mean rushing toward power at any cost. As the ship disappeared into the darkness of space, Juan reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had entered the galactic community as apparent primitives, only to discover that their careful, methodical approach to technology had been the right path all along. They weren't behind. They were simply taking the time to do things right. And in a universe where the devourer hunted those who chose power over wisdom, that made all the difference.